Hi and welcome back. In this tutorial we're going to have a look at Live's browser. Now the browser is quite an integral part of working with Live. You'll use it a lot and it can be accessed by pressing these buttons along the left here. And they're always visible whether you're in the Arrange view or the Session view. Basically you can access all the different browser windows just by pressing directly on one of the buttons. But this button at the top here is the Show Hide Browser button, and that will just open to whichever browser window is selected here. Basically that button's more useful as a hide browser button really, because if you want to open the browser you're better off just clicking directly on the button you want to use. The keyboard shortcut for opening the browser is Ctrl-Alt-B or Command-Alt-B on Mac, and you can see that in the View menu here. You can also open the browser using any of these options here. So let's just have a look at the first button here. This is the Live Devices browser. Now this only deals with Live's own native devices, so that's Live's instruments, MIDI effects and audio effects. And if you own the Ableton suite then you might have all of these here, which I have, but if you don't then you'll see less options here. You'll only see the stock instruments and plugins that come with Live. But basically all the MIDI effects and audio effects listed here, they're all with Live by default, and they can be loaded into the project either by double clicking or just by dragging into the project. So the next button here is the VST and AU plugins browser. That only applies to you if you own some external plugins, VST plugins or AU plugins, and they can be instruments or effects. If you do own them, you will need to activate that option, as you can see here, and this button here will take you straight to the preferences, where you then choose the folder down here where you keep your VST plugins or AU plugins. And you can see a couple of buttons here. We've got a browse button to choose where we keep the folder. This on-off button here selects whether we use our own custom VST plugin folder. And this rescan button here allows you to scan that VST folder in case you add any plugins while Live's already running. Then these three buttons here, which are all the same, as you can probably tell from the icons, they look like little folder icons like the Windows Explorer or Mac Finder. They're really just for accessing any folders on your hard drive or on your computer. So you might have a folder somewhere on your C drive that contains a bunch of samples. You can navigate to that just by clicking on the arrows to the left here, and that opens the folders, and gradually you can find all your samples, and then you can just drag them into the set or double click on them. So all of these are basically kind of like shortcuts because you can have them all set to different locations. If I double click on the C folder there, then that means the C drive is selected as the default location for that folder. Then I go down to this browser and I might choose the D drive. So you can see that allows you to jump straight to a location, but as you might imagine, 3 isn't nearly enough. So to help with that is a number of bookmarks. If you click here on this arrow, you can open the bookmarks. And these ones here are always there. They're in Live by default. But below the line, these are ones you can make yourself. And the way you do that is you, as I just did, I double clicked in the C drive. Then you choose bookmark current folder, and that will bookmark it and it'll add it to the list underneath. So you can see now the C drive is now bookmarked, so I can jump straight to the C drive just by going there and going straight down to there. And you can see now that I've bookmarked it, it's now changed to remove current folder from bookmarks. So that's a way of cleaning up the list. You'll notice some of them are greyed out, and that's because those locations aren't currently available. That'll happen if you have a folder bookmarked that's on an external hard drive, for example, and the hard drive isn't plugged in. So as soon as I plug that hard drive in, then those folder locations will appear again. You'll notice another couple of buttons up here. This one here is to allow you to search in the browser. It's basically like the Mac Spotlight or the Windows Explorer search function. You can search for a sample or for a file here, but that can actually be accessed using the keyboard shortcut Control Shift F or Command Shift F if you're on Mac. And that's a toggling function as well, so you can toggle between them. That's basically like any kind of search function. The first time it searches for a file, it will take longer because it has to look for the first time, but then it will add the location to an index, so the next time you search for that file, it won't take as long to find it. So going through the actual browser, there's another button here. This is the preview button, and if that's enabled, then that means whichever file is selected, if it's an audio file, then that will preview. As you can hear, it's previewing now. If I turn that off, that will stop previewing. But because that file was selected, as soon as I pressed that, it started previewing. But if you have a different type of file selected that doesn't have the ability to preview, then it won't do anything, of course. You can stop a file previewing by hitting the escape key, and that will stop it in case you've started previewing a really long file and you don't want it to keep going. Or another option is to leave this turned off and to just use the Shift and Return keys to just preview files as you need them. So if I press Shift and Return now, because this is selected, then it'll just preview that file. And again, Escape will stop it from previewing as well. So I can double click that file and that will load it into the set on a new audio track as an audio clip. There's a few different file types that are supported by Live where you can do this as well. They'll be handled differently according to what's going on in the session or arrange view that you're in now. So for example, if I just double click on an audio file, then most of the time it just adds it as another track in the end of the chain. Likewise, the RX2 file, this device here, MIDI file, they can be loaded the same way. Double click, that just brings out another track containing that MIDI clip. So you can also just drag these in, as we've seen before. A lot of the kind of idea behind working in Live is based on the whole idea of dragging and dropping. So a lot of the time you'll find that the easiest option in Live is to drag and drop. You can also navigate through the browser using the up and down and left and right arrow keys on the keyboard. And if you use the right arrow key on a file that has a little arrow like this, then it will open it up and show you what's inside. And likewise, the left arrow key will close it. And if you go through and select a file and then hit the Enter key, then it's just like double clicking on it. Hit Enter, it will do just the same as it did when we double clicked on it. So that's pretty much it for the browser. You'll get to know this pretty quickly because you'll have to use it quite a lot, and you'll find it to be an invaluable tool, and it's well worth getting to know all the keyboard shortcuts. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.